So guys, the course agenda, first of all, welcome all. So the course agenda, which you can see here, these are the 12 modules. But in these 12 modules, there are different components which we will do. So starting with big IP system and TMOS, I will be starting it. So the operating system which is used in F5 is called TMOS. Like in Juniper, we have Junus. In Cisco, we have iOS. The same in F5 load balancer is called TMOS operating system, which is called traffic management operating system. So guys, when I tell you about some definition or something, you can write it important. This question is important. What is the operating system used in F5 load balancer? And this operating system deals with Linux. Is backend Linux is the platform which has been used here. So when we start about F5 guys, or what is LTM? So F5 basically deals with your F5 is a company. It's not any module or something. F5 is like a Cisco or a Juniper company. So if I tell you quickly, so people have confusion whether F5 is a load balancer or it can do any other things. So guys, first of all, F5 network is a company, okay? And this was basically established in 1996, US based company. Now F5 network launched first product that is called big IP. You will see many terms like this, big IP. So that is the first product which was launched in a market called load balancer. And it's an American based company. What is why F5 introduced this product? First, to have security. Second, scalability. Because right now every application is internet based. So I want my application in 24/7 available. I want my website, SIANETS.com, that should be accessible to my internet users 24/7. So I will tell you F5 it is big IP load balancer. But if I talk about load balancer, guys, big IP is a product which has been launched. But in this product, big IP, there are separate modules. First module which was introduced was called LTM. LTM is called Local Traffic Manager. Okay, so this was the first module which has been introduced, which will be starting now. So what does LTM means, guys? First of all, what does load balancer means? You have been working in load balancer, either F5, either Citrix, or either AWS or Azure. What does load balancer exactly means? Let's say I have a user, maybe a laptop user or a mobile user. They are coming from internet and they have a website which is published in LTM. So I want my website, hey Vidit, can you publish this website on load balancer? Then we have a servers. These are called your physical server or it can be your virtual server. So what does this server means? These servers are called your web servers. Very important term, guys, which I am telling you now, or it can called application server, or it can be called backend server. So you will see many terms like front end, back end. So guys, Your application, which you can access like google.com, sianets.com, aws.com, from where the web page is coming. Anyone knows? You are sitting at front end. You are just accessing a web page. But can someone type in the chat where these web pages are exactly hosted? Can anyone tell me? This web page is sianets.com, aws.com, which you are accessing from user machines. Physically, these web pages are hosted where? So these are hosted in your server end. That is very important. So your application servers host the web pages. So what user says? User says, I want to access sianets.com. So logically, there will be one concept called web in F5 that is called logical component. So when I talk about LTM or a load balancer, this is acting as a proxy. So there will be two connection, one from client to F5 and one connection from F5 to server. Because my main agenda is I just want my web page to be accessible. And these web pages are hosted in your web server or application server. When I access any web page, that web page or application is coming from here. Now my question is, what does load balancer means? So I will divide into two components. One is load, one is balancer. Can anyone tell me what is load means and what is balancer means? So load is called your customer request. Many users are there, like this user, this user. They want to access web page. Now this server can handle only 100 requests per second. This server can handle only 100 requests per second. This server can only access 100 requests per second. Now my question is, what is the purpose why load balancer has been introduced? So that if this server goes down, your website are still accessible. Let's say in your company, guys, you have a manager. Then you have three, in under manager, there are three students or three persons who are reporting. Ram, Shyam, and Jigar. Now, manager customer says that I want to allocate three projects. Manager got three projects. Okay. So first project he will assign to Ram. Second project he will assign to Shyam. Third project he will assign to Jigar. So what is that called, guys? That is called load balancer. Now, let's say Shyam and Jigar does not exist. Now these three projects come to Ram. What will happen, guys? Anyone in the chat? And if Ram becomes, he has fever or he has taken the leave, but customer wants to deliver project, what will be the disadvantage if I don't have a load balancer? First of all, Ram will get overutilized. He will feel pressurized. Second, manager does not have any other person. Customer says, I have one customer TCS, one customer AT&T. They want their projects to be complete in next 1 week. Now what manager does? Manager only have Ram to execute this project. He's one man army, which we see in companies many times. So disadvantage came was overutilized. Second disadvantage was if Ram becomes sick, he has fever, he's not coming to office, then manager is not left with anything. And customer does not agree. Customer says, I want my application to be accessible. I don't care. Whether you want 10 resources, 20 resources, I don't care. So in that case, guys, load balancer came into picture. Very important term. So in that case, what happens? Your F5 will have multiple servers behind F5. So in this case, same application SIANETS.com will be hosted in one server here. Same application will be hosted here. Same application will be hosted here. And what does the advantage comes? Your client is coming from internet. They want to access website. So first request will go to server 1. Second request will go to server 2. Third request comes to server 3. In that case, first advantage will be equal distribution. Equal distribution of traffic will happen. First advantage, no one will feel overloaded. Second advantage, guys, if this server goes down, still your application will be accessible to the client. Customer only wants 24/7 availability or accessibility. So in that case, companies implement load balancer. First, I want equal distribution. Second, I want my application to be available. What is the third advantage of load balancer, guys? This can also be called server load balancer. Third advantage is security. Does a client ever comes to know that from which server your application is accessible? No, guys. So you will not able to get knowledge about server. That is the security which load balancer provides. Because F5 is acting as a proxy or a man in middle request. So there will be two connection. One is front end. One is called back end. So you will see this term many times. So that is a term called load balancer that distribute traffic across multiple backend server efficiently. So I want to distribute my client request to multiple server. Even this server goes down, there is a redundancy. You will get your resources from these servers. That is an advantage of your load balancer. So client believes that he is connected to an actual server, but he does not know. But load balancer will connect to your server and provide you an application. Because volume of request from internet, guys, internet, there are a lot of requests can come, right? One server cannot handle. So that is called load balancer. Now, next term, guys, why there is a term called LTM? Why this is called local traffic manager? So we understood what is F5. Now there is a product called Big IP. In Big IP, there is first product which is called local traffic manager. Why it is called local? See, every term has a logic. So that you need to understand why load balancer came into picture. So first of all, when I talk about local, local means your client is coming from internet. They are connecting to F5. And in F5, there are 3 servers or 2 servers. So local means your application are only across same data center. Within same data center, you have multiple servers plus a F5. That is called local traffic manager. That your F5 is hosted and your server are hosted within a data center, same data center. But sometimes customer requirement comes that I have client in US. I have client in UK. Then I have F5. My one application, same application is hosted in US data center. One server is in US data center. Another server which is hosting same application, which is called sianets.com, is hosted in UK data center also. Will LTM fulfill this requirement? My question is, my servers are in different data center. Will LTM, which is called local traffic manager, will fulfill your requirement or not? Anyone, guys? So let me see the chat, what the people are saying. Very good, guys. Why it will not fulfill the requirement? Because local traffic works on within a data center. Your servers or application should be hosted within a data center. So what does Big IP introduce? Big IP has a different product which is called GTM. That is called an intelligent DNS. So what does it do is, your US customer comes to F5, it will populate the traffic to US data center. If UK customer comes and wants to access SIANETS.com, then it will forward your request to UK data center. That is a concept called GTM. Very, very important, guys. In any interview, this question will be asked. What is difference between LTM versus GTM? When I talk about LTM, I can only load balance my application within a data center. My application are hosted within a data center. When I talk about GTM, which is called global, your application are hosted across a data center. So why I want this? Why customer want that US customer should go to US data center? UK customer should go to UK data center. What is the purpose of this? Anyone? You have been working in proxy, you have been working in other devices. What is the advantage of this? Why they want this type of setup? That US should go to US data center, UK should go to excellent latency issue. Very good, guys. Quick response, latency issue resolution. See, customer wants three things basically from load balancer. First, 24/7 availability of their application. Second, they want faster web application access. They want to access their application quickly. Third advantage, they want security. It is also called performance. So when I talk about F5 or a big IP product, guys, these are the three advantage which you should know, guys. What are the three advantage of a load balancer? First, availability of your application, performance, and security. So now someone will ask me, how F5 provides security? Now let's say I have one client 1, client 2, then I have an router, then I have a firewall, then I have a F5 load balancer. Then I have 3 servers. Now guys, my requirement is your F5 LTM. Your request comes to LTM, okay, through firewall and a router. What does it do? It forward your request to servers. So that is called HTTP request. Because load balancer is called a application delivery controller. You can say ADC. So this will also a term which you will heard, application delivery controller. So my main purpose of load balancer is I should provide my application quickly to client. So load balancer client will initiate one request to F5, then F5 will initiate one request to server. When server responds, that is called HTTP response. Now in this case, guys, what does F5 do? Does F5 load balancer checks whether your incoming traffic is good or bad? Does F5 LTM has a capability to do this? Because F5 is a load balancer. It's a simple load balancer. A request comes, it will forward to the server so that your application is 24/7 availability plus security is also there. So it's just acting as a load balancer. But does it check whether your request is good or bad? So we talked about load balancer is just a device where you have multiple servers and you want to deliver application quickly. But does it provide security? Does it check whether your request is good or bad? Anyone? By default, any load balancer, does it do anything like this? I don't think. Because load balancer is just to increase your traffic, just to distribute the traffic across multiple servers. I want this HTTP request should go to server 1. I want this HTTP request should go to server 2. I can only do this. My question is, does it provide security? Does it check incoming traffic? No, guys. So in that case, there is a product of big IP, which is called WAF, Web Application Firewall. So what does it do? Let's have say one client I have here, one client here. Then we have a load balancer. Then we have 3 servers. So when we have F5 WAF, before forwarding a request to server of your client, let's say this client initiate an HTTP request. So F5 will first scan this traffic to check whether it's good traffic or a bad traffic. Then only if this traffic is bad, F5 will not forward the traffic to servers. It will reject the traffic here only. But when there is only LTM, he does not know whether traffic is good or bad. His duty is only to forward traffic, or his duty is only to load balance. He will distribute a traffic across multiple server. That is LTM. But I want security also. Nowadays, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. Your traffic is coming from internet. So I want to scan it. So in that case, your WAF protects from OWASP top 10, cyber security. So OWASP top 10 mean like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, parameter tampering. There are a lot of attacks, web attacks. If you have heard about web application attacks, that is protected from WAF. So he will be able to scan your HTTP request traffic also, plus response traffic also. Both way you can apply security in a WAF, which is called Web Application Firewall, or it is term called ASM. In F5, you can also say ASM, Application Security Manager. So if traffic is good, he will able to scan your HTTP request, whether something is changed in HTTP request or not. Everything will scan like headers, whether your protocol is right, whether your HTTP version is right, clients. So that all things we cover in our WAF module. Another security, guys. Nowadays, you will see that you access your application over HTTPS. versus HTTP. Why? Guys, anyone tell me why you want your application to be hosted on HTTPS, not on HTTP? When you access SIANETS.com or Google.com, your application are on HTTPS. Why? So can have someone knows what is HTTPS donates. S means SSL, TLS. So in this case, guys, what we will do? You have a client here, you have another client, you have F5, then you have multiple servers within a data center. Let's say it's a same data center. Now, my application I want to host in HTTPS. So with the help of which component this will be achieved? So this component is achieved using SSL offloading. So your traffic from client to F5 will be always be encrypted. This can be unencrypted, that's fine, because this is internal traffic. My main thing is I want to protect external traffic. So in that case, what I will do, I will have a certificate, I will have a key, and I will do SSL handshake between client to F5. And why this traffic is encrypted, guys? Why I want my traffic to be encrypted? So that if even hacker wants to read the data, which is going from client to F5, he will not able to read it. So that is one of another component which is provided by F5. So that is part of your SSL and TLS. Because HTTP is unencrypted. Normal HTTP traffic is on port 80, that is called insecure port. Now, guys, another term we talked about, proxy. F5 load balancer is called reverse proxy, guys. This many people will ask in interview, what is the difference between reverse proxy versus forward proxy? See, basics are your basics should be very strong, guys. My teaching way is I should start with basics. What does load balancer do? What is difference between different module? I can teach today and complete it topic. But if your basic is not strong, you should know proxy. Every term, your basic should be strong. Now, can anyone tell me whether F5 is a reverse proxy device or a forward proxy? Anyone? Question will ask in interview whether F5 device is a reverse proxy device or a forward proxy. Topology is like this: client 1, then I have F5, then I have multiple servers. So F5 is a reverse proxy or a full proxy? Let's see the answer, then I will answer. Vivek, full proxy, we will talk about full proxy. My question initially is, first you should know full proxy, reverse proxy. So guys, many of you, anyone says that F5 is a reverse proxy? Anyone? Some people have said full proxy for both. Some people says both. So right answer is F5 works as a reverse proxy also. F5 can work as a forward proxy also. And F5 can work as a full proxy. But by default, if you talk about any cloud load balancer or anything, that whenever load balancer terms comes, that is always called reverse proxy. You can make it forward proxy, but by default, F5 is a reverse proxy device, guys. Why it is called reverse proxy, guys? Because your external client 2, that request will come to first to F5 from client, then it will forward the traffic to different servers. So proxy means it will take a request from external client and forward them to server in internal network. So reverse proxy or a load balancer follows client server architecture. Here your external client wants to access application which is hosted on internal network. So traffic is coming this way to this way. So F5 is acting as a proxy, man in middle. That is why it is called front-end traffic, because it is external traffic, and this is called back-end traffic. Very, very important, guys. When I say very, very important, this is an interview question which comes in market. So what will happen? Your request comes F5. F5 will forward to server. From server, response will come. Now response will go to F5. Then F5 will forward the response to client. So in any way, whether it's an HTTP request based on client, it will go to F5. Then F5 will initiate one more connection. That is called a reverse proxy component, guys. Now, guys, because it is near to your application, he's taking F5 is acting as a middleman. He's taking request from client and forwarding to the server. Now response traffic will come also to F5. Then he will forward to client. So this way, your client will initiate an F5 HTTP request. Okay, this is HTTP request. Now it will go to server. Now server wants to send a web page, that is called HTTP response. Now this response again F5 will forward to client. So this component by default F5 is called reverse proxy. Now can someone tell me example of forward proxy? Guys, very important basic question. What does forward proxy do? Any example? Have you worked on any forward proxy? Ahmed Basha, you were right. It's a reverse proxy. Avneet said G-scaler is called a forward proxy. Guys, is he right or wrong? Excellent, Avneet. You are correct. So what does forward proxy do, Avneet? So in this case, your client will be hosted here, internal network. Previously, request was coming from external client, then it was going to internal. Now in forward proxy, it's an opposite. Your internal client wants to access web page. Let's say I want to access ESPN Crick info. Right now, IPL is happening. So I want to access gaming website. I want to access newspaper website, aajtak.com. So that are all your application, all are hosted over internet in this case. So request will go from here, opposite. In reverse proxy, it was coming from external client, then F5 was forwarding to internal server. Now internal client wants to access internet application. So what is the advantage forward proxy Zscaler is doing, guys? Anyone? Why I need a proxy device here when internal client wants to access any internet website? Anyone quickly? This is very important question, guys. Why I need a Zscaler or a Blue Coat or a McAfee device? So that I can apply a protection. This can be your phishing pages also, right? I don't trust this web page. I want a restriction so that any malware or virus does not come. So proxies scan your incoming traffic and what users wants to access. So when I talk about forward proxy, it is called URL categorization also. I can apply a restriction that my users in my organization can access which type of website. That is where forward proxy, we need a device. I can do URL filtering. When I talk about forward proxy, that is called URL filtering. So when you were in college, guys, everyone has done degree in college. At that time, you were checking, right? You wanted to see some websites, but you were saying that your proxy device has denied. Why they were doing it? To protect your internal network from attack. So that your people cannot go and watch any bad website where there can be a virus or a malware. So there was a term called URL filtering. I was applying a proxy device in there. I was doing URL filtering, which means users from internal network can only access websites which are related to their knowledge. Only college websites can be accessible. They cannot open any gaming website. They cannot access any newspaper website, any shopping websites, any gaming website, or there are many other websites which are bad, which I don't want my users to access. So that is where your forward proxy comes into picture. When your users wants to access application over internet. So what does forward proxy do? Your scanning was done before going over internet. So in this case, it was providing you privacy and control both. See, load balancer does not provide URL filtering, guys. It does not check whether your websites are good or bad. That is where forward proxy comes into picture. It's an opposite. Traffic comes from LAN network, forwards to internet. In reverse proxy, traffic was coming from external network and going to LAN. Very, very important term, guys. So I will draw a topology quickly to revise this. In this case, users were here on LAN network. I will say this is LAN network. And they wanted to access device via proxy. And there was internet websites. So LAN to internet, that is called forward proxy. When I talk about reverse proxy, it is internet to F5, then to your servers, which is hosted on LAN. Okay, guys, this is all about your forward proxy versus reverse. Now, guys, let me come in the agenda. So today, first topic was introduction of Big IP. What is Big IP and what are the modules? So we discussed like F5 is a company which has a product called Big IP, and Big IP we have different model. LTM, GTM, and ASM. Then we talked about what is load balancers. Then we talked about difference between LTM versus GTM versus ASM. After that, we talked about different flavors of proxy, that is called forward proxy versus reverse proxy. Now, guys, I will talk about this setup and everywhere little later. Now, you need to first understand the architecture of F5. So second term calls about your hardware. You should know how F5 looks like. So this is second agenda which I wanted to tell you. So let's go here. So we talked about this LTM, GTM, ASM. This one is for acceleration. Nowadays, this is not even used. So that's why I did not cover. This one I will tell you. This is APM. This is one of another module which Big IP product has. That is called Access Policy Manager. So can you see this? There are three terms: F5, Big IP, and modules. You should know what is the difference between F5 versus Big IP versus modules. F5 is a company which introduced a product called Big IP, and Big IP has this modules. And this APM gives you an SSL VPN solution or single sign-on solution. Anyone knows what is single sign-on? When you are in your organization, you can open your HR website, your career website. So initially, you only log in first time. And after that, you will be able to access any website quickly without any authentication again. So that is called single sign-on solution. So that what Access Policy Manager provides. Then you can see difference without a load balancer. Here in this picture one, when I talk about picture one, there is no load balancer in here. And in picture two, there is F5 LTM coming into picture. When F5 was not there, guys, you can see this is our client, this is your router, this is your firewall, and this is your application server. What was disadvantage here, guys? First of all, this server says I can only handle 100 requests per second. But I have multiple client over internet who wants to access SIANETS.com, which I talked about. In that case, you were getting 300 requests, but server can handle only 100 requests. What is the issue you will get? Slowness. Availability issue. If the server goes down, there is no redundancy. So to overcome this issue, we introduced F5, where we have multiple servers for same application. We already talked, but this is a pictorial representation which I wanted to show you. Without F5 or with F5. Okay, this is all about your F5 load balancer as a device. Now guys, very important picture which comes into concept of F5. You can see two pictures here. One is LTM, one is GTM. So what does this virtual servers, pool members or pool represent. Now I will talk about this. These are the three major component or four major component, which is the base of your load balancer, whether it is LTM or GTM or ASM. What does virtual server means? What does pool member means? And what does pool means? So you can see here three terms in both of the picture. First term is called virtual server. Second term, pool member. And third term, pool. What is the difference between these three components? First of all, guys, we will understand virtual server. So virtual server is also called a web. This is the component which represent your IP address of your website plus port. When you access SIANETS.com, when you access AWS.com, when you access hemu.com, vidit.com, that is one URL. That is one URL. But that URL are on some port, whether this is hosted on 443 or 80, because they are web application. So your load balancer basically works at layer 7. So because it handles your HTTP protocol traffic. So when I say cnets.com, abc.com, that is called a URL. And that URL in F5 is called your virtual server. So virtual server represent IP address of your website plus port number. Without virtual server, F5 will reject the traffic. Very, very important, guys. When I talk about virtual server, it is the IP address of your front-end website, cianets.com. Every URL, F5 can deploy multiple applications. Every URL donates a virtual server. It represents one virtual server. cianets.com represent one virtual server. abc.com represent another virtual server. So you can deploy multiple application in your F5. Each application represent one virtual server. And same virtual server you can deploy on 80 for three different ports. One IP can have different ports, right? I want my application FTP. I want to load balance my application on FTP. You can do it. So let's say I have one website which customer says, hey Vidit, I want cnets.com to be deployed behind F5 load balancer. So in that case, I will assign one IP. Let's say 1.50. So this will be given by my either network team, or when I will talk about topology network architecture, I will tell you. Now guys, first of all, when customer wants to access cnets.com, what is the first thing? I have assigned this VIP on 443. That is a virtual server. First of all, what I need to do? When my external client wants to access cianets.com, I have created a virtual server, this one, with an IP this. First thing, what will happen in an OSI layer? Anyone, when client wants to access cianets.com, the traffic IP is 192.168.1.50. That is an FQDN. So previously, very, very important, guys, this concept which I'm talking about virtual server, this you will face in your production also. I am saying that previously, your client does not have a F5. They were accessing application without F5. And they were pointing cnets.com to your server IP. Let's say server IP is 10.2.30. Previously, when they were accessing an application, your DNS was pointing of your application to 10.2.2.30. Now, when F5 was deployed after firewall, In that case, your proxy device was coming. So we created one virtual server where IP was 192.168.150. Then server was there. In that case, guys, I want my client to access sianets.com on this IP. What should I do first? Because previously IP was 10.2.2.30. Now I want my traffic should come to F5, then it will go to server. It should not directly go to server because I want my F5 proxy device coming into picture. I want a segregation between front end versus back end. Now here what I need to do, guys. Previously my server, my application was pointing to this IP. Now I want to change to this IP. DNS resolution. In every network troubleshooting or anything, guys, if someone says that my application is not working fine, so you should do NS lookup, sianets.com and check what is an IP. If it is coming to this, then it is wrong because we have F5. It should point to this IP. So you should ask your DNS team, hey DNS team, my application IP is this one. Can you change it so that client traffic should come to F5 rather than going to server? So first in every troubleshooting, guys, DNS resolution should happen fine. If DNS resolution is not happening properly, then it will not work. So that is called first component in F5, virtual server or a virtual IP. This is logical. That is an IP address of your website, original website, plus port number. Now, by default, F5 is a denied device. Very, very important, guys. Server 2, server 3. When I say F5 is a denied device, what does it mean, guys? Anyone? It means without a virtual server, if I don't configure any virtual server in this F5, it will not listen to anything. It will not process our traffic. So my customer says with it, I want to deploy AWS.com. If I don't have AWS.com virtual server on F5, then F5 will reset the traffic or reject the traffic. So if you want to deploy any website on F5, you should create first virtual server. Virtual server is an IP address of your application plus port number. Simple, guys. If there is no listener, this virtual server is also called listener. You should listen, right? Your client request. That is called virtual server. Second term, node. What is node in F5? Let me draw up topology. Then I have F5. Then I have servers. Node, guys, is just an IP address of your real server or a backend server. See, we talked about virtual server. It is a front-end IP address of your website. When I talk about node, node is just an IP address of your server, physical or virtual, where your application is originally hosted. So let's say I've given us server 1 as 10.2.30, server 2 IP is 10.2.2.31, server 3 is 10.2.2.32. So it just represent a node. Node is just an IP address. Now, when I talk about pool member, guys, a very important component, pool member. So your server also should listen on some port, right? See, IP we have given, but this application is listening either on 80 or 21 or 443, correct? This server should be listened on some port, right? So IP address plus port combination is called your pool mem. Like in virtual server, there is a concept of VIP that is called IP plus port. In backend, that is called pool member, where application is originally hosted. So pool member is nothing but server IP plus port number. Your application must be listening on some port, right? Whether it's an HTTP application, then it should listen on port 80. If it's an HTTPS, then it should listen on 443. If it's an FTP, 21. If it's an SSH, 22. And combination of this all three component. I'm talking about only this. All this pool member, whether this pool member, this pool member, or this pool member, combination of this is called pool. So node is an IP address of your real server, pool member is an IP plus port, and pool is a logical. It's a collection of pool members. So when you deploy F5, guys, you will first create VIP, then you will assign pool on that. And pool is a combination of your pool member. Let's say pool member 1, pool member 2, and pool member 3. And behind that, there will be a node. Node 1, node 2, node 3. And before F5, there will be a client. So this is how your F5 load balancer looks like. Network topology. Component of F5. Very, very, very important, guys. F5 is segregated between two components. One is front end and one is back end. You should remember this. Back end is this architecture. Front end is between client to F5, virtual server. That is called front end. So that is where if you see this picture representation, that is where I represent. Initially, this is called front end. So F5 initiate two TCP connection. I will tell you, one between client to F5 and one between F5 to server. See, this combination is called pool, and these are pool nodes. So F5 is component of virtual server, pool members, and pool. And can you see this GTM? In GTM, we have wide IP concept, where we have multiple data center. Same application is across US and UK. So F5 has segregated the traffic between front end and back end. Now, people have questioned, this will be asked in an interview, guys. Even some people ask me whether I'm not working on F5, can I show an experience of 3 to 4 years? I will say yes. And how you can show them? They will ask you, hey Vidit, are you working on F5? I will say yes. Can you tell me 3 platform or 3 hardware model which you have worked on? Please understand this term, guys. As an interviewer, I will ask this question. I will ask a question that are you working on F5 with it? Yes, I will say yes. Can you please tell me on which hardware model you have worked? So I will say that, sir, I worked on 2000 series, 4000 series, 5000 and Viprion. So by this, I will understand, yeah, he's working in production. He's working in production environment. So I should select him. Even when you're working in Palo Alto, checkpoint, they will ask this question, which module you have worked? So guys, very important. When you deploy F5, F5 can be deployed as a hardware model, that is called physical, as a virtual appliance, or a physical and cloud. So let's say when you want to migrate from physical to virtual, or a private center data center to the cloud, then you can follow hybrid. Let's say I want to just implement virtual edition. Virtual edition means I don't have an hardware, but a virtual appliance. I will just import an image on an guest host box. So what I will do, I will have a virtual edition, right? In our lab also, we will be doing a lab in this virtual appliance. So I will have a VMware workstation where I will be deploying one iOS version of F5. Physical means hardware box. I need a dedicated hardware box. So these are all hardware boxes. 2000, 4000 series, these are all hardware boxes. These are your virtual appliance. What does this mean? 25 Mbps, 200. These are your throughput. So this question you will ask, what is the throughput needed for your application to be deployed? So this is your F5 deployment.